Thank you. My name is John Burtka, and I'm the Executive Director of the American Conservative. On behalf of our staff and Board of Trustees, I'd like to thank you for your presence at our 15th anniversary gala. We gather here tonight for two principal reasons. First, to celebrate our history and to cast a vision for the next 15 years at the American Conservative. And thank you. And second, to honor the editors, staff, writers, board members, and financial supporters who have given of their time and talent to make the American Conservative a respected and indispensable voice in Washington and around the country. Thank you for all that you have done to help us accomplish our mission of promoting a Main Street conservatism that opposes unchecked power in government and business, promotes the flourishing of families and communities through vibrant markets and free people, and embraces realism and restraint in foreign affairs based on America's vital national interests. In particular, I'd like you to join me in giving a warm welcome and round of applause for one of our founding editors, Scott McConnell, with us this evening. And his lovely wife, Margaret, as well as to our former editor and current editor-at-large, Dan McCarthy, for his leadership at the magazine from 2008 to 2016. Finally, I'd also like to thank our many sponsors for the evening, including the members of our host committee, Senator Rand Paul and Representative Thomas Massey, who are not here with us this evening, but who have sent some of their staff members to represent them, Representative Walter Jones, Representative Justin Amash, George D. O'Neill Jr., Charles Haywood and Ollie Murphy, C. Boyden Gray, John Basil Utley, our publisher, Phil Hudner Jr., the Charles Koch Institute, and American Philanthropic, as well as members of our Robert A. Nisbet Donor Society in attendance tonight, Dominique Watkins, Don Sebastiani, who's not with us this evening, but who sent his wine from his vineyard in Sonoma, Jeff Geza, Lynn Oakley, Plow Magazine, Scott McConnell and Margaret McConnell, Howard and Roberta Amundsen, and our editor, Robert Mary. Thank you. Now, if you were to go back and read the very first column written by our editors in our inaugural issue, published on October 7th, 2002, you would find a bold assertion. We will be different. Many voices will appear in the pages of the American Conservative, often in disagreement with one another. We are, of course, in considerable part, Buchananite, but our mission is broader: to reignite the conversations that conservatives ought to have engaged in since the Cold War, but have not. What are some of these conversations and convictions that shape the way we think at the American Conservative? First and foremost, we believe with George Washington and John Quincy Adams that America should have a foreign policy fit for a republic, not an empire. We believe with conservative luminaries Russell Kirk and Robert Nisbet that America should have a domestic policy that strengthens local communities and traditional institutions where individuals can flourish. And we believe with the statesman and philosopher Edmund Burke that society is a partnership of the dead, the living, and the unborn, and that the future of our constitutional republic depends upon educating our children and assimilating newcomers from other countries in the principles and mores of our American and Western heritage. Over the last 15 years, we have been having these conversations with people on the right, people on the left, and people in the center, including many of you with us this evening from partner organizations, and I have to say that I'm optimistic about what we've discovered. Now, if you visit the pages of the American Conservative on a daily basis, you might think that optimism is in short supply. After all, Rod Dreher and Daniel Larison are our two most popular writers, and they'll be the first to tell you that there's a lot, both globally and domestically, that we should be concerned about. And I agree with them. But I'm not here to tell you tonight that I have a half-dozen Greyhound buses lined up outside so that we can all flee to the hill country together. Even though I'll be doing that with Patrick and Rod tomorrow morning as we head up to upstate New York. What I am here to tell you about is the tremendous progress that we've been making in Washington and around the country, disseminating our vision for a Main Street conservatism. In 2009, the American Conservative became a 501c3 organization. In addition to our print magazine and website, which now garners over 31 million page views each year, the American Conservative also educates congressmen and staff on the Hill, trains new and up-and-coming journalists through our intern program, and hosts a wide range of conferences and lectures on the core issues discussed in our magazine: realism and restraint in foreign policy, crony capitalism, new urbanism, criminal justice reform, and religious liberty. In 2017, over 1,400 people attended these events, and many of them were standing room only. Based on a recent survey, our readers are younger than ever before, with a plurality between the ages of 31 and 45. More educated than ever before, with over 50% having a master's degree or higher, and more diverse than at any other point in recent history, with political ideologies spanning the spectrum. 33% identify as conservatives, 19% as libertarians, 17% as moderates, 16% as liberals or progressives, and 12% as other. I guess they don't like to fit into a box. As you can tell, we adhere closely to our institutional maxim: ideas over ideology, principles over party. Moreover, I'm happy to share several exciting developments. First, we've confirmed Senator Rand Paul as the keynote speaker at our Fall Foreign Policy Conference, which will take place on November 15th in Washington, D.C. And second, we'll be launching a new media initiative to include redesigning our website, launching a podcast, exploring video content, as well as refreshing the look of our print magazine and beginning strategic outreach to college campuses so that our writers and ideas can be more widely disseminated. Our finances are as strong as they've ever been before, with total revenue increasing by approximately 140% over the past 4 years. And you can actually hear influential and diverse voices from Mike Lee, Joe Scarborough, and Ross Douthat, to the Queen of Jordan and Jake Tapper at CNN, sharing our articles and points of view on a regular basis. Not to mention frequent mentions in places like the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Atlantic, and NPR. In fact, the most talked about books in 2016 and 2017 both had their start in different ways at the American Conservative. First, with Rod Dreher's viral interview with J.D. Vance that drove so much traffic to our website, it crashed our server and catapulted his book into the #1 slot on the New York Times bestseller list. And second, with Rod's own book, The Benedict Option, which New York Times columnist David Brooks called the most discussed and most important religious book of the decade. While we've gained much ground in shaping public opinion on our core issues, there is always more work to be done, which is why I want to thank you, our supporters and biggest cheerleaders, for standing by the American conservative throughout the past 15 years. We couldn't have done it without you, and we need you by our side more than ever as we pursue our goal of becoming America's preeminent conservative magazine. In closing, I'd like to invite you to raise your glass as I read a toast that one of our other founding editors, Pat Buchanan, asked me to share with you this evening. Now that TAC is a teenager, I regret that I could not be there to celebrate the birthday with you. I will always be proud of my association with the magazine and with the great and good cause to which it was dedicated, right from the beginning. The cause of keeping our beloved country out of unnecessary wars. We fought the good fight against launching the war in Iraq in 2003, and though we did not succeed in preventing that terrible tragedy, the nation now knows we were right. And though we fell short then, let us work together to keep our country out of this next Middle East war. All the best, Pat Buchanan. You're here. Before the Catholic University String Quartet begins another lovely performance, I'd like to welcome our legendary columnist, Bill Kauffman, to the stage to offer another toast.
Thank you, Johnny. I wish I'd prepared something witty to say. Wonder if it's too late to call Michelle Wolf's joke writer. He's looking for work, I understand. 15 years ago, the intrepid trio of Talkie, Scott McConnell, and Pat Buchanan, the prophetic Pat Buchanan, stood courageously, unflinchingly, patriotically against the immoral and unconstitutional Iraq War. They pledged not their lives nor their fortunes, well, maybe Talkie's fortune, but certainly their sacred honor to found a magazine animated and inspirited by principles and precious things that had long since been forgotten or repudiated by much of the American right. Peace, place, humility, community, federalism, the Bill of Rights. The American conservative gave and continues to give voice and presence and sustenance to the very best humane traditions of American political thought and civic life. So I propose a toast to the American conservative, to its founders and editors and readers and writers and financial supporters, to 15 more years, to 50 more years, to 100 more years, and to the country for which it stands, not as an idea or an abstraction or a cynical marketing slogan, but as our home and the land we love above all others. To the American conservative.